Welcome back to the Enjoy the Walk podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Your host here, Dalton, with Dante. Dante, we've got some news to cover, and I just want to dive right into it. The USGA and the R&A announced that they are assessing basically a research team into the sustainability of mitigating distance increases. There's a mouthful for you for your Thursday morning. Um, they're looking at it intently here, where we've gone from rumors of them taking a look at distance to them saying we're going to make a decision on distance in a timely manner now. Right off the cuff, one of the couple of things that I wanted to touch base on is they're limiting the length of the driver. So obviously we've heard Phil Mickelson going to a 47.5-inch driver, Bryson going to that 48-inch driver here and there. Neither of them seem to keep it in play, but I want your take on this first. We'll dive into this little piece and then open it up as we go. The driver length as one of their key points here. What are your first overall thoughts when thinking, hey, the USGA and R&A is going to limit the driver length?
That I don't really care too much about, to be honest. I mean, you got guys who can rip a 48-inch driver like 320 or 350, however you want to spin it, and then you got guys who are actually like Ricky Fowler. I think he's using either 45 or 44 or 44 and a half, and he can still get it out there with the guys. So, I mean, I think the length. I mean, granted, you'll probably get a couple, maybe like 1 or 2 miles per hour more speed. But at the end of the day, now you're just sacrificing accuracy at that point. Because obviously, they all say when it comes to the game, the shorter the club, the more accuracy you're going to have into the greens. I mean, so at that point there, I mean, the driver length, I really don't care for that rule whatsoever. Don't think a longer shaft is really that beneficial to the player. I think it actually hurts them in the long run.
I think, we even touched on the longer shaft thing with Jacob Galloway, or Jesus of Golf, as people might know him on Instagram, and he was talking about the switch because he was a competitive golfer, went to the long drive realm, and it took him forever to learn how to, and he's still learning how to, completely keep a 48-inch driver, within within the grid, which is essentially a fairway for these guys on tour. So I think these, oddball situations of Phil and then, Bryson testing these long drivers aren't here to stay. And I think we're going to see a majority of the guys, if not 99% of everyone on tour, whether it's European Tour, PGA Tour, stick to this typical driver length of like 45, 46. I don't see that being a trend that's going to follow to make this rule worth making, to be honest with you.
No, and I think I've been talking to some people and they've seen some articles where, some guys are actually putting it in play. Maybe they're messing around with the 47-inch and it's like working for them. But I mean, I really haven't heard anything, and I'm glued to all the golf social networks and the media on the golf end of things. And I really don't think it's going to benefit the player. The only thing I can think of is if off the course they train with the 48-inch driver and then they go and play with the 45-inch driver, and now you're going to think you're swinging a pitching wedge and you're just going to have the utmost control of your golf ball whatsoever.
Well,
So
let's get
I
into
just
that.
think
I'm glad you really touched on that because, I was in a clubhouse chat today with a bunch of really respected people within the industry. One guy that brought the same thing up that you just did was Chase from Buttercuts Golf. He said the same thing. He's like, well, even if you cut the 48-inch driver out of inside the ropes on tour, you're not cutting it out of people's lives. People are still going to train with it. And that's the essence of speed training, like you just said, is training so that you can push your limits of what is hard, so your new normal becomes higher, right? So like instead of your normal or your laid back speed being 130, now your laid back speed's 140 and your hard speed is 160 instead of 150. So it's like it basically goes back to speed training, and like, all right, great, we're not going to see it inside the ropes. These guys are still going to test the limits outside of the ropes and in their own homes and in their own trainers rooms anyway. So at that point, why limit it?
yeah, I mean, if you're hearing from 99.9% of golfers from top to bottom, from your number one player to your 30, 40 handicap, however high it goes, saying this is a bad idea, you would think that, maybe we should reconsider how we go about this whole distance debate and try and find ways and what are the ways, and who's it really going to affect? And I know you're saying about they're going to make it for tour only, but you're only looking at, so it just pisses me off because you're looking at that aspect of it, right? You're just looking at the driver length, and that's going to be speed, and it's just they're going to find ways to just, you're gonna throw them a problem, they're gonna find a solution
Yep.
at the end of the day.
Well, and it's
I
like
don't I don't get it.
it's like this rule is obviously made for pros only, because the main thing of what they're looking at too is a quote unquote local rule, which is, in their own words, recommended for use in competitions limited to highly skilled players only. So this quote unquote bifurcation is they're looking to do, which basically attacks these guys at the forefront and at the pinnacles of their career. It's something where, like, what other sports are doing this? Because this is what I always look for within golf, right? Because golf is trying to be this worldwide game. We're trying to progress into a state of mind that, golf can be played by the masses and picked up by the masses and loved by the masses and watched by the masses, right? So let's look at other sports and how they're progressing, their own games. We're obviously seeing, different sports progress along in technology. You're seeing the track and field game continue to put lighter and lighter cleats on these athletes for faster speeds. You're seeing, in the pole vaulting area, you're seeing different sticks being used, and that's kind of, how high can they jump because of the elasticity in these pole vault poles. And then you're seeing baseball, I think, maybe be the only similar scenario to golf, because this is kind of golf steroid area, right? If you think about it, quote unquote steroid area, the long ball, and how we're dealing with it. Baseball is the only sport that I think ever maybe mimics or mirrors what golf's doing right now by trying to draw back in a game. And I know we talked about this off the air, when you look at a global game like this and trying to expand, I don't see anyone else drawing back like golf continues to try and do.
No. I mean, they made, like you said, other sports. The only two sports that I can think of is baseball, where once you come out of collegiate and you go into pros, you go from an aluminum bat to a wooden bat, or college basketball into the pros, you go from a shorter 3-point line, and the 3-point line actually backs up a little bit. So it makes it a little bit tougher on the pros, but it's not necessarily like a big game changer. These guys, it's really nothing to them. And that's the only two sports where I really see a change. But I mean, look at it at this aspect, right? You're looking at basketball. You're looking at, say, collegiate levels, the NBA, the WNBA, on the professional sector, the rim has always been set at 10 feet, right? Now, players are getting stronger, faster. They're learning the game a lot more. They're studying. There's the aesthetics and the kinesiology, every different type of science and the movement of the body, and how can these guys jump a lot higher and just get a lot physically stronger to their professional game that they're playing. I mean, these guys are training for their sport. They're not just training to train and stay healthy anymore. They're training they're doing that, but they're also training to just break boundaries. I mean, even like people are just getting taller too. So like, look at like basketball. I mean, you guys go back like 10, 20 years. I mean, how many guys did you see over like 7 foot? Not too many. Now you have guys that are like everybody's almost 7 feet tall, but they haven't changed the 10-foot rim.
It's incredible to me, right? How much technology is going into being an athlete in the 21st century. No free ads, but I just picked up a Whoop band. I'm excited to see what all the like hype is around this, but this is just such a small part of the greater, grander picture. Like you said, guys are diving into kinesiology. Guys are diving into daily diets and making sure their diet is perfectly regimented for them to perform at peak levels. Jack Nicklaus wasn't doing this. Arnold Palmer wasn't doing this. Gary Player,
No,
maybe Gary Player.
Yeah, Gary Player. He's
a freak
with us
in the gym. But
I mean that. But think of it. Look, he always he can still hit the ball because he's constantly staying in shape and staying in golf shape. I mean, the guy does like hundreds of push-ups and hundreds of crunches every day when he wakes up, he talks about it all the time, and he's talking about core. Like, look at this. Look at Bryson DeChambeau. Watch some of the videos that he posts where they just get videos of him at the range before, kind of teaching other guys where what he's learning from Berkshire. Like, look at the movements. He is studying movements. I mean, you can go back then and they're not even looking at their movement. They're just swinging their swing. They're just letting their body do the work. And that's why kind of you watch the greats and it's awesome to see because everybody has a unique swing now. And then you kind of come into that 90s, early 2000s eras where it's the modern day swing. Now you're taking the swing to a fact that's like, all right, what body movements, what parts of my body are going to absolutely take me to another level, break boundaries to get like the ultimate. Everybody talks about using force and using the ground for speed, right? Look at Bryson DeChambeau. I saw a video where he's three things. You got your core, you got your legs, and you got your back, right? He gets up. I mean, you can just watch Kyle Berkshire. He basically stands up and then squats down. As he's squatting down, he's using his lats to pull the club down. And you're just using the ground, and all that force and all that energy is going back through the body and then through your hands and then into the end of the club. So go back like years ago, no one was really doing that as what you see today. I mean, that's kind of like that's your modern day swing 2.0. It's like they're taking those assets and those factors out of the game. They're studying the swing, but they're also studying the body movements more as to all right, you got the clubs. I think the clubs have been absolutely maxed out on a wood standpoint. We can go down that.
I think you're spot on. And one thing I wanted to touch on, we're comparing old to new, right? And the fitness, you're going to laugh here at the driving leaders at the turn of the century. Fitness, mind you, is what we were just talking about. John Daly, 2000, 2001, 2002 was the longest hitter on tour. Not your most fit guy in the world, right? You progress a few years. Bubba Watson led for a few years. He's obviously a huge, tall, lanky guy. He's never been in the gym a ton, so you really can't count him fitness-wise as being a leader, right? And then J.B. Holmes and Robert Garrigus went back and forth, both kind of taller, huskier dudes, not fitness models by any means. It's not really until 2015 that you even started to see a quote-unquote guy who works his butt off in the gym and reach that kind of upper echelon of driving distance, hit the scales, and that's Dustin Johnson. And he's not even a, fitness, I would say, guru like Bryson has been or like Rory has been. And mind you now, 272 yards. I mentioned John Daly at the turn of the century. That was his driving average. J.B. Holmes took it up to 290 in 2011, but from 2011 to 2021, what do you think the difference is between 290 and the driving average now on tour? The leading driving average on tour.
2 yards.
95.
Just about 95 yards?
5 yard difference in just about a decade. Just about a decade.
I mean, here's another thing. The Tournament of Champions, they had Kapalua every year, right? I think there's one hole. I forget what hole it was, but they say Tiger Woods holds the longest drive record on that hole, and I think it's like 400 and some yards. Granted, I mean when you play in Hawaii, you're playing on like concrete and the ball just rolls, but that's a different story. He's held that record since like 97 or something 100%. Like that, and no one's beat him. No one's beat him. So how are you going to tell me that we're in a distance debate or distance debacle and it's 2020, yet there's still records from the late 90s holding some certain long drive competitions?
It seems to me
doesn't make any sense.
Like people are getting scared, right? What it basically boils down to. They're watching almost too much Instagram videos of Bryson and watching these anomalies. They're letting these anomalies scare them, right? These once in a blue moon 400-yard drives that are on these massively undulated, high altitude areas, so the ball's flying like no other. And now, granted, in driving distance this year, there have been multiple cases in which guys have averaged over 300. In fact, the Tour, Bryson DeChambeau, obviously number one at 329, Rory McIlroy at 321. but these are so random instances. I don't see these guys winning every week. If we had a true issue with distance to where distance reigns supreme, the guys in the top 5 of the driving distance would be winning every week. And we're just not seeing that. And one thing I wanted to get back to, and I think what we'll dive into next is because it's our favorite topic when it comes to distance. You mentioned Kapalua and how the course was, designed or how it plays to these pros. That's the number one issue. If you want to start to draw back the distance advantage, if there is one for these guys, by golf course architecture, not by changing the rules for the top 1%.
Oh, I completely agree. And we've had this discussion before and we've had it today is, technology is advancing so much and it's just so fast that, you kind of can't keep up. So, but, they're finding new ways to take the equipment that you use and they're advancing it to a level to where it's has been unseen. I mean, the equipment's great. I mean, does it help? Yes, but is that everything? No. But there always seems to be an underlying issue. I mean, look at cars. Look how much automobiles have advanced throughout the years when it comes to the material they're using, the how much eco-friendly they're becoming, going more electric, and the safety precautions, and all the Apple CarPlays and the Samsung CarPlays and the cameras and the rear view cameras and the blind spot detectors and all this tech, right? Making all this advancement to where it just it's just making things so much better all around, but you're still running into one issue: the roads suck.
For sure.
The stuff that you're taking the equipment on. So it kind of goes back to the same thing with golf. I mean, okay, cool. We're making all these advances with the golf clubs, and if you want to say that's actually detrimental to the game, well, you haven't done a thing to change the infrastructure of what we're playing on. It's still the same basic concept as it was in the early 1800s when it kind of came across the board.
I'm excited to in the future get a couple golf course architects on here and kind of explain to people how they can as architects affect these players in a way that challenges them, full bag wise, and not just, hey, let's bomb it as far as we can and pitch and putt it around the greens, because I think us ranting on it only goes so far to people
Well, that's
truly
the other problem where
understanding
you
what can
just
be
said
done.
is bomb and gouge. You got to pick your poison here. You put these tour players on, right? These tour guys on the courses, on these wide open bomb and gouge courses that you can call chip and putts, and they're just wide open pieces of land, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, why do they do that? Is because they want excitement and they want to pack the stadium with fans. They want their ticket revenue. At the end of the day, it comes down to a money made. It's a business, right? You're here to make money. That's what the bottom line is to have revenue, right? They're there to make money. So let's say, all right, you have a course like Pine Valley, right? This tight course, right, in New Jersey, southern New Jersey, right? I mean, it goes back and forth between Augusta National and Pine Valley is the best course in the entire world. Now, Pine Valley is surrounded by trees, and it's a pretty long golf course, but at the same time, it's all about kind of placing your shot. I mean, you can't just bomb it because each hole is surrounded by so much woods and kind of is right. It's just if you don't hit the fairway, you're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Right at the bottom line. But the funny thing is, they say how great a design the golf course is. When you're on a specific hole, you can't see any other hole because you're surrounded by so many trees. So how are you going to pack fans into that course to host a tournament event? They're not going to do that. They're not going to take an event, a PGA event, where they can just sell a shit ton of tickets and get all these people into and pack them into a course when you have a course like that that's just stuffed in the woods and you really can't place any fans. So there's one problem right there.
Oh, I think you're spot
Is
on
you
there.
gotta you gotta
There's so many good courses, and when I think of that too, when you talk about wide open land versus challenging courses that host events, I think we're starting to see them kind of get the idea. I mean, they're taking the U.S. Open back to places like Whistling Straits. They're taking places out to I don't even know, Wing Foot, obviously. But those kind of courses really challenge players. They're not bomb and gouge. But where I think they're making the bigger mistake as a whole, and now granted, this is only the USGA and the R&A making these decisions. So the PGA Tour has really made no comment on it. So on a week in to week out basis, we might continue to see the bomb and gouge, and we might just see the Open Championship and the USGA affiliated events. So the USAM, the US Open, the US Mid Am kind of filter into these rules changes. So again, PGA Tour's made no comment. There could be basically a USGA ruling, and the PGA Tour says, "Nah, I'm good." Like you draw the ball back all you want, you draw the clubs back all you want in your events. PGA Tour is a money making machine. We're gonna stick to our bombers. So it'll be interesting to see, I think, how this all breaks down, because if the USGA makes a ruling and has it at their events, will the PGA Tour follow? Or will the PGA Tour kind of separate and say, we're a made for TV experience. You guys only happen once a year. We happen every week. We might be able to kind of split and go our separate ways, which brings up a whole new can of worms for maybe another podcast. The PGA Tour having their own set of rules inside the ropes at a PGA Tour event, which, looking at the grander scheme of things, would be a phenomenal move, I think, in their direction, because you've got MLB and Major League Baseball rules. You've got the NBA and the NBA rules. You've got, how they differ from college in their own respective states. College got the baseball bats that are metal. MLB's got the wooden bats. NBA's got the college 3-point line, as opposed to, the college basketball has the 3-point line that's shorter than the NBA line. So would it be cool to see the PGA Tour maybe bifurcate themselves and make their own rule book? That'd be something that I think, if the USGA makes a rash, unfavorable decision, we might end up seeing.
I think so, and it's kind of funny and it's kind of frustrating at the same part, is where the percentage of what the R&A and the USGA is trying to change is probably less than 1%. Mm-hmm. So you're looking at pretty much the elite level, probably top AMs and professional level, right? But it seems like they're constantly just focused on the men's side. Well, they have no mention of the women's side of thing. Like, are you just changing it for the men's side? I mean, you're trying to change it for what, maybe like 10 players I don't really know. Say like 10 guys are like constantly averaging over 320 yards as a average driving distance. Like, you're really going to change the game for that those 10 people? Like, what about the LPGA? They say nothing about the LPGA, and since they're a professional thing, are they just going to get left in the dust? I mean, you got girls averaging from like 230 to, I think the longest average hitter is 280. So you got from 230 to 280 of this broad span of women, of their driving distances, of their top to like I don't know. I was looking at it today. It was like 230 to 280, right? Mm-hmm. So you're going to roll back the equipment for them, but they're not, detrimental to the game. It's just that less than 1% of PGA Tour pros, like the Rorys and the Brysons, that right. You want to completely change all this equipment rules and rolling back the ball like that. It's kind of a slap in the face, in my opinion.
What's even funnier, like looking at the grand scheme of why they're diving into this, it's not only the 1% of guys that play it on tour, it's literally 1% of the guys that play it of the 1%. Like, it's the top 10 in driving distance that I think they're truly concerned about. Other than that, the average is like below the top 20 in driving distance don't differ from much of before the turn of the century driving distances. So, when you look at it like that, I don't see where their big issue is. But
that's the funny thing that you just said right there. I'm sorry to cut you off there, but you just said one thing. They're focused on driving distance, right? Yeah. That's all they're really focused about, driving distance. At the end of the day, it's who plays the game best from tee to green.
Yeah.
Like, who scores the best? Like, you're talking about one factor of the game. 25% of the part of the game, you're talking about, you want to change everything to change the 1% of the 1%. Makes no sense.
What I think it boils down to here, and you correct me if I'm wrong, or if you think I'm on the right path here. The USGA, we're looking into this for some time. They've obviously been mentioning about taking a look at the distance. And what I think propelled them to make such a brash say, hey, we're going to do something now, is because Bryson DeChambeau went and won their U.S. Open doing his quote unquote bomb and gouge style playing, and there was nothing they could do about it. They grew up the rough, they made the greens ridiculously hard, and he still trumped him. And you know what I say to them changing it, probably because of the way Bryson played their US Open? I say shame on you, because you can't let one man dictate the decisions you make as an entire golf association. And to build on that as well, if they change it up again, Bryson's going to push the limits of whatever they change it to anyway. That's who Bryson is. So if you're changing this because of one guy, you're absolutely ridiculous in thinking he's not going to figure out another way to exploit the rules in which you make a second time around.
Well, they missed their chance with the Tiger era, and they didn't do anything about it. Now they have
so did
kind of
Augusta,
like,
and they Tiger proofed Augusta.
yeah. So now they're trying to Bryson proof it, but they're trying to Bryson proof it in the entire PG, the entire tour. But then you're looking out, you're screwing over the LPGA, and then here we go. Let's talk about the AMs, right? If it's going to be like, if it's USGA events, right, for or just elite amateur events, like how far does it go back to where now you got to tell all these top amateur events that, all right, well, what equipment rules are we going to be using? Say if this goes in place, like where are you going to draw the line? Because there's so many tournaments and so many like status levels of what you can play. Like what's considered what? Like you look at the APGA, and you look at all those like mini tours, like the Outlaw Tour out in Arizona. Like you look at all those, right? So who, like where, and then you look at all the amateur events. You got the Maryland State stuff, and then you got the Gap affiliated stuff, and then obviously you got USGA affiliated stuff within those organizations. How far do you go down where what rules are going to be amplified? It makes no sense. Like I think it's just going.
I feel like from top to bottom and everywhere in between, it creates such an absolute issue of where does the line draw? Like you just said, there's so many sub tours and this, that, and the other that maybe fall into it, maybe don't. Where do you cut it off? Is it just USGA events? Is it just tour events? So, guys, we're going to continue this talk. I think, as we move forward within the season, it's going to continue to progress as the USGA lets us know what they might limit, what they won't. They haven't touched the ball topic yet, which I'm going to be interested to see if they dive into that as well. But I think, we'll leave it with this, and then we'll get into our interview here with Liz Breed, former Symetra Tour pro, chasing the dream as an LPGA Tour pro, as we dive into what a female golfer looks like from the wardrobe side of things. She's going to kind of walk us through how she's changing it up a little bit, making fashion look cool in and outside of the ropes. But let's finish with this, Dante. Moving forward, if they change the clubs, do they have to change the ball, or do they take this step by step and maybe just change one thing at a time?
Knowing them, they're probably just going to like throw out the hammer and just change it all. But you think on the smarter things, if you really want to change something, start with one piece, see how it goes. And then if it's still a problem, try another thing. It's a trial and error aspect, and you're just going to have to keep finding new ways and limiting different things if you want to go down the path that they're trying to go down. So it may be the driver length, and then maybe it will be what you can do with the driver face, and maybe the driver head side of things, and you keep going until I think at that point you get to the ball side of things. But
sure,
I think that's how they should do it. I think they shouldn't do a damn thing, because I think equipment on the driver and woods and hybrids aspect are so maxed out to the point I don't even think they can really change anything. It's just kind of reverting back to old technology and maybe mixing it with new things that they've come up with. I don't think they can come anything that's quote unquote new technology. They've done it before. I honestly don't think they can do anything more with it. So they need to get their heads out of their asses and think outside the box a little bit and really kind of take a look and see, well, it's not, we're trying to change the 1%. and affect the 99%. But
I couldn't
I
agree more.
mean,
Well, guys,
I don't know. You're just gonna have to wait and see,
yeah,
and
100%.
then we'll kind of go from there.
We'll post a nice little clip from this podcast, guys. Go interact with us. Let us know your thoughts. Obviously with the short driver looking like it's the shorter driver law is going to come into effect from the USGA. What do you think? Where do you think they might start overreaching? Do you think the distance is truly an issue at all? Let us know in the comments at Enjoy the Walk Pod on Instagram and Twitter. We'll look forward to listening to your thoughts there and interacting with you guys over there. But up next, guys, like we said, Liz Breed, Symetra Tour professional and aspiring LPGA Tour pro, changing the way women look inside and outside of the road. Welcome back to the Enjoy the Walk podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Excited to have Liz Breed here on the show. Liz played her college golf down in Kentucky, but better known for having her home in the Franklin County area, where I also grew up and where we stem back to. A little couple fist bumps there. Liz, happy to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys. I'm really excited to be here and, chat about some old times because everybody likes to reminisce about when they were 13 to 15. Everybody loves that.
Well, I'll let you speed through that. I'll let you off the hook there. Let's start at Kentucky golf and move forward from there. How exciting was it to get to play D1 golf? And then what has the life been like after D1 golf and kind of, chasing the dream of playing in the LPGA?
Yeah, so I was lucky that my parents put a golf club in my hand when I was really little. So for me, I started to realize that, okay, I was pretty good when I was like 12 and 13. And so when it came time for me to, look for colleges and stuff like that, everybody always says like, you just know when you're at the right school, like you'll feel it in your bones. And my moment when I knew I needed to go to Kentucky was when I was on my recruiting trip. And at first I thought it was kind of random because, Kentucky, it's not like, I feel like nobody dreams about moving to the state of Kentucky from Pennsylvania, of all places too, so, so I was invited to take a recruiting trip there, and we went to a basketball game, of course, and it was when DeMarcus Cousins and John Wall were on the team. And I was like, okay, so I'll sign right now. So I did. But it was funny how, I did have that experience of like, holy shit, like I need to be here. Like, this is the school I want to perform for and, all that stuff. So I loved it. And truly, like I actually stayed in Lexington for like 2 years after I graduated because I loved it so much. It was so easy. I had a great practice facility, but playing Division I golf, especially in a big powerhouse conference like the SEC, I couldn't imagine being at, a smaller school or a school that didn't have resources or things like that because, like, of course you have to work hard as a student athlete, but there are also so many opportunities that happen just because you choose that school, just because of the being able to, go through the alma mater list and, things like that. So, Kentucky golf was a great time. And, I also was able to play a lot. I was able to pretty much have an immediate impact, as a freshman. And that was really important for me because I didn't want to, what am I going to do? Watch other people play?
No one likes sitting the bench.
I think.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit on the bench. I did a couple times, but that's okay.
Kentucky golf is just so underrated, in my opinion. So I'll probably get ridiculed, but I call it Louisville. I used to go down there for work all the time. Yes. I know it's
Chat
Louisville.
has ended.
Yeah, it's Louisville. Anyway, Kentucky golf, because like that area too, right? So you're still Eastern time.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time kind of like daylight, it's not daylight saving anytime. Like when they, you can push the clocks forward and you have all that sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
I remember times I was out on the course at like 9:30 at night and the sun was still up. You could play so much golf, and the courses out there are just phenomenal, just like unreal because of like the grass and all that, and just kind of the area. I think people need the they don't understand how underrated Kentucky is when it comes to golf courses.
Oh, it's for sure. Like I made a joke that like people don't dream about moving from Pennsylvania to Kentucky, but it is such a beautiful place. And bluegrass, and you got like all these horse farms and all that stuff. But in terms of golf, it has some of the best topography in the country. So you have these natural rolling hills and just like great turf to work with. I mean, one of my favorite courses of all time, two of them are in Lexington. It's Lexington Country Club, really old school, like super tight, really fast, small greens. It's amazing. And then right down the road it's called Idlehour Country Club, and super old club, kind of the same, like really thick rough, really narrow fairways, really small greens. But they used to be a sectional site for the US Open. And I think the last year was when my senior year at school, so 2014. And it was the shortest yardage, like it was the shortest on paper yardage, but it had the highest qualifying site, which I thought was really interesting. It's both of those courses are two of those courses you look at, you're like, oh, these don't look so bad. And then you're 4 over at the turn and you're like, what just happened? Like, Kentucky golf. I mean, and that's just in Lexington alone. Like in Paducah, there's Old Stone, there's in Louisville, obviously, but Kentucky golf I wouldn't trade it for the world. And the actual golf teams are also really good. Like the men's program goes under the radar every single year and they're phenomenal. And the women's program has definitely had, I'm not going to say it's highs and lows, but, it's definitely been a work in progress starting from when I was in school. I signed under an initial coach, and then she actually left the program. And then, so I ended up playing under a different coach that came from LSU. Her name's Golda Borst. And she made me the best player that I could possibly be. Like it is one of those experiences. If I went back and did it, I probably wouldn't graduate because I couldn't imagine like going to school, 1, 2, just trying to get all the other things done. It's just crazy. But obviously, when you're 18, you're just like, this is great. This is my life.
You're almost a deer in the headlights. And I love the way you put it. You can't imagine doing it any other way, but the new coach made you the best player possible. And I want to kind of talk about that real quick too. What was the day-to-day like at a D1 program, and how did it kind of structure you to become that best player possible?
Yeah. So day-to-day in season, we would start our week Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We had a workout either at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. So we would always rotate with the boys team. So one semester they'd be 6 a.m., one semester we'd be 6 a.m., kind of flip-flop. But so you're already starting your day like full immersion into whatever sport you're in, right? So you're already doing golf-related workouts first thing in the morning. And then after that, of course, you clean up and, go to your classes or whatever. Like typically our classes would get out at like noon or 1, just so we could get out to the golf course by, usually our practices started at either like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So by the time you got out there, it's like school is you leave it behind, right? Like when you get out to your golf, whenever practice starts for you, it's like literally what our coach would do is she would give us a piece of paper with all of our drills that we had to do that day. If that's what we were doing, sometimes we would just go play, sometimes there was a little bit of fluidity in that, but usually our practice were you get a piece of paper, she'll explain the drills to you, and then you just go do it. And then when you're done, you can either start something else or go play a couple holes or work on the things that you want to work on, outside of what the coach assigns you. But, I have always loved to play. And I think playing is also, of course, your fundamentals always have to be, in the right spot. But when you're actually out on the golf course, you can really learn how to problem solve, and you can really learn how to make par when par seems impossible sometimes. But so she did a really good job of teaching us how to be, honestly, just tough. Like just teaching you how to figure it out. But then also, like she did a great job of kind of like lighting a fire under your ass. I mean, she was really good at bringing intensity to the table, which is something that I like when I'm playing golf. I'm yelling. I'm more yelling. Maybe I'm throwing a club. I'm not usually throwing a club. It's more yelling. But she did a great job of, you know, bringing that intensity to the table, but also, you know, knowing that you're going to be there for the long haul. It's not, you know, golf is, you know, you fuck up one hole, that's okay. You got a bunch more to, you know, it's definitely a marathon. You got a bunch more to go. So she did a really good job with that. But yeah, so a typical day. And then once practice was over at like 5 o'clock, it was your time. You go home. If you want to stay late and work on some stuff, you can. And then my evenings were spent, you know, having dinner and things like that. The thing that was really nice about when you were on campus is that everything was pretty much right at your fingertips, and you were always, you know, Kentucky kind of has a athletic program where the athletes are together a lot, just because our schedules are a little different than, you know, a non-athletic student or just a, you know, a student. So typically my dinner was spent having dinner with some other sport team or, you know, another group of kids that were there. And then I was home by 7 o'clock. And I mean, I would like to say that I was studying, but sometimes I was studying.
Shenanigans
Don't tell me.
Got in the way.
If you're talking to my mom, I was studying.
As we all were talking to our parents during those college years.
Right. I mean, yeah, truth be told, like, honestly, looking back at college golf, it was pretty all consuming. But I had a great experience, you know, but yeah, like if you don't like your teammates or you don't like your coach or something like that, it could be a much different experience. But yeah, you're in it.
Well, and I feel like, you know, stemming from that too, it kind of led to the way you approached going professional after you graduated. And if you didn't enjoy the all kind of encompassedness and it consuming you at that point in college, you wouldn't have chased it after college too, is what I feel like. And, you know,
yeah,
talk us through that transition. You know, you were kind of prepped and all in it during college. When you got out of college, what was that first like step or two looking like from, you know, the college days into, I'm on my own now?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is too, like one of the things that's so like not underrated, but like not talked about enough in college golf is how much your coaches like just provide for you. I knew what I was wearing every day. I knew where to be every day. I knew I didn't have like, depending on whose tee time was first, I knew when I was going to be at the golf course. I mean, yeah, of course you have to control your own emotions, but you are not really necessarily in control of your schedule. And that's the thing about playing professionally on your own. I mean, you have to figure it all out, you know? And so the thing that I'm so glad I went to a school like Kentucky, because when I transitioned out, I was able to have a lot of support from the university. I had of course I had a place to like practice and, you know, all that stuff, but I also had connections to get me my sponsors that I had. You know, I came out of school and I was able to sign with Callaway and I was able to sign with Nike pretty quickly out of school. And so doing things like just having that resume and, you know, it just changes the whole dynamic of when you do transition professionally. Plus, you know, I had a great senior year and I played really well my senior year. So when I did transition, you know, I was more focused on how I can mentally stay healthy out there as opposed to like, is my skill set there, or, you know, how am I going to find practice, or like, what am I going to work on today? You know, because one of the things that was so instilled, let's call it instilled in us when we were practicing is you have to stay organized when you are practicing. You can't say like, oh, I'm going to putt for 30 minutes. Okay, well, what the hell does that even mean? Like, what drill are you going to do, or what sort of like actual tangible thing are you going to work on? You know, you can't just absent-mindedly hit balls on the range without any sort of goal. So when I was, you know, working on my own, I already had the skill set to be able to practice effectively. It was more about like, how am I going to make sure that I can get to an airport on time and feel relaxed about it? How am I going to make sure that I find a hotel or my host family or, whatever I was working with that week. So that was kind of the bigger transition for me. Some players just get it. And some players need a lot more support, like I don't know how many girlfriends and guy friends that, are playing that still rely on their parents a lot. And that's just normal. Like it's not shitty. Like if your parents are there to support you and they give you a place to stay, fuck it, like you have to do what you have to do. But there's a lot of ways to transition out on tour. And, for me, I can only speak to my experience. And, my concern was not the physical stuff,
Which is, I feel like a good relief on the golf game, is having not too big of a concern on that kind of areas.
80% of the battle.
Well, yeah. And I think it's also really important, regardless of what your background is in golf, how good you are, even if you're just playing recreationally, it's just a fucking game. It definitely feels all consuming. Like when you're out there and you just missed a putt for either the cut or a shit ton of money, it feels like terrible. Like you're just like, it can really be difficult to separate yourself from golfing, especially, I guess that would be like any sport really, but it's important to remember that when you are out there, you need to just compartmentalize who you are mentally or who your character to be versus your performance in golf. And I think that gets muddled a lot of the times with a lot of players. And, mental health just doesn't go addressed enough. It's not spoken about enough, especially when you play on a tour. You're seeing the same people. You have little means, it's not like you're rolling in dough, living in the lap of luxury when you're out there. So, for me, it did take a lot of pressure off my golf game. But with every, thing that comes easy, there's always something else that's just difficult to overcome and things like that. But
absolutely. Yeah. And I love the way you put it earlier too. There's no like perfect way to do it. And I think that's why we as golf fans love hearing every person's journey to professional golf in some way, shape, or form, because it's always different. There's always little quirks and twists and turns that makes each story unique. And I think that's, why we love hearing it so much. You talked about host families, which I think is pretty cool and doesn't get talked about enough in the game of golf. What's a host family and what does that look like on a week-to-week basis?
So I don't know if you guys know the Gruder girls. Shout out to them. They're the best. But I spoke to them maybe like 3 weeks ago at this point, and we talked about host families as well. And so host families, for the people listening, if you have an opportunity to host a player, you should do it. It's the same thing I said when I was talking to them. Like it is, one, it creates such, well, one, it's just a cool experience, but two, it creates such a sense of comfort for the player. And also it saves the player a lot of money and stress and, all things like that. But yeah, so basically hosting is, let's say you're a member, like you're Dante, your club, you're a member up there and there's a Symetra Tour, an LPGA Tour event. They'll open up the membership to allow the membership to host a player. There are certain requirements, like, you can't be a single dude, you can't be a creep, you can't, like there's definitely like rules or there's like
seemingly reasonable rules.
yes but yeah, and then a player, like usually what will happen is that the tour will send the player the contact information from the host, and then it's up to the player to reach out to them. Now, human nature, I've met some weird as shit people that were my host family, but then I've met people that I still keep in touch with today that are like sweet and amazing and nothing but supportive. And I've had host families turn into sponsors of mine, people that helped me on my journey when I was playing full time. But yeah, hosting can be weird. It's either like the coolest experience ever and they become best friends for life and they're just like this really sweet, typically like usually older couple, or you think you're going to die that week and there's no in between.
Yeah, there's no middle ground. It's hit or miss.
No middle ground. But, regardless, it always makes for a good conversation, right?
And a better story,
Always
one way or the other, right?
Yeah. I was telling the girls a couple weeks ago, 2 stories. I had one of my host family's son. I'm going to keep it, I'm not going to name names, but, of course. But we were playing in a tournament, and I had one of the early tee times. I had like an 8 o'clock tee time. So I was up at like 5 a.m, and I was staying in their furnished basement area. So, of course, I had to come up the stairs to like put in my contacts and, you know, all that. So use the bathroom and stuff. So I'm walking up the stairs, and I hear people talking. And I thought it was like maybe my host mom's up watching the news. I had no idea. I was also awake for 15 seconds at this point. I popped my head above the like stairs. There's 2 cops inside the house, and they're arresting her son because he was selling weed. They just like, yeah, I know. Fuck yeah, dude. 420, dude. So he was selling weed, and he was doing it in a public place. And so obviously the cops came, he ran, and they just followed him home, and he was just there. And they were like, hey, you're under arrest. And I just pop up from the downstairs, and I was just like, and of course the cops are like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I'm just here to play golf. Like, I haven't, please. Like, I haven't even put on deodorant. Like, let me live. So that was a good host story. And she ended up leaving her son there for the whole weekend because she's like, I'm going to teach him a lesson. And I was like, I don't think you're learning anything from jail.
Accomplice. Yeah.
Well, and that's what I was wondering. I was like, these cops probably think that I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Because, of course, her host son was like, this was 2017, 18, 17. So I was like 24. And her son is a freshman in college. And I was like, oh, my God, they probably think I'm like some crazy sugar mama or like I'm a kingpin behind this whole operation. Anyway. But then I've had host families that, like, I had this one guy. It was a family in Illinois. We were playing a tour stop there. And I got there, and he was like, do you want a beer? And I was like, yes, that'd be amazing. He ended up being a home brewer, and he had this beer that he had made, which that was a whole conversation. He brought me a pint glass, and I was like, what kind of beer is this? And he's like, oh, I made it. And I was like, oh my God.
Red alert, red alert.
Yeah. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. And it was super tasty. And so the story, or, you know, his history, I guess, was that his family were brewers. His whole, like, 4 generations prior or something, multiple generations prior, they were all brewers. And so he had like this home brew at home. It was great. Tasted like a Blue Moon, but like with mango instead of, you know, orange. It was crazy. So you have wonderful experiences, or you have insane ones. And all the while you're supposed to try to play really good golf in between.
Riddle that, right? Riddle that. That's incredible. You know, I love little tidbits like that too, because I feel like a lot of folks don't know about the host families and how these tour pros get from, you know, position A to B, and how they make a living staying at different hotels or different host families or anything like that. So I always love to touch on little niches like that people might not know about.
Yeah, I mean, well, and the funny thing is about hosting is that everybody has stories like me, you know, like, it's definitely like a Murphy's Law type deal where whatever happens, whatever can happen will happen. Mm-hmm. And that's basically what it's like playing professional golf. But yeah, I mean, hosting, it's awesome. And, you know, obviously players have if players want to stay in a hotel or if they want to get an Airbnb, you don't have to stay in hosting. Mm-hmm. You know, but yeah, it makes for great memories.
I love it. I love it. Well, you just said a quote, which I love. Whatever might happen, will happen, or something like that, close to it. Talk us through the time you played full-time professional. What was like 1 or 2 stories from the time you played professional that exemplified that statement of whatever might happen, will happen?
Oh, Dalton. Buckle up. Yeah, I'm just kidding. So I'm going to say let me settle in for this story. So I have got a really good one. So I had a caddy, again, I'm going to censor this so nobody knows. I'm going to keep it top secret identity. But I had a caddy who unfortunately missed my tee time because he was in jail. He got arrested. So Oh yeah, dude. So I had a 2:00 tee time. And so I was hoofing it by myself. Okay. So usually what I had been working with this caddy all season. He was awesome. Like, this is another thing too about players. All players are different when it comes to their caddies. Some people like to know every single, like how far away is that blade of grass? What do I have to clear the bunker? I like to just chit chat with my caddy and just make sure I'm not, like bumpers in bowling. That's my caddy, bumpers in bowling. And then just give me a number and just, do whatever. I'll hopefully, hit it to 3 feet every time. But so yeah, this caddy and I have been working together all season. Everything was great. So with these late tee times, what I like to do was meet at the golf course a few hours earlier, have some lunch, just get a feel for how we're feeling today, kind of go through the game plan, and then start a nice slow warm up. Like nothing, it's not like in the morning when you're like, you got to be up and at 'em really early. So our meeting time came and went, and I was like, okay, he's like 20 minutes late, never happened. I kept calling his cell phone straight to voicemail. I was like, shit, this dude's dead. Like, it was so bizarre. So then I was just like, fuck, like I got to do something here. My tee time, like he was not on the tee box during my tee time. And I was just like, okay. So I was carrying my own bag and I was playing pretty well. I was like 1 under through 8. Like under the circumstances, I was very okay with that.
You were cruising.
Thinking that my caddy for the week was dead up until this point. Like I had no response to the text message, nothing. So I'm on the 8th hole and I see like 300 yards away, I see a rules official and I was like, oh, that's my fucking caddy. Like I just knew it. I was like, so it's one of the caddies that's this was a Symetra Tour event. So she is always there. She's the best. Again, not going to name names. So she brings my caddy and she was just like, hey, do you want him on the bag or do you want to, continue? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. So my caddy gets out and he looked terrible. Like just like somebody who had spent the night in jail, pretty much.
Fair.
And so I was just like, look, dude, I don't want to know what happened. I'm glad you're alive. I'm glad you're safe. We'll just go through this round as we normally do. We'll take it from here. So I missed the cut by 1. And unfortunately, I ended up letting him go for it because it's just like, it was one of those things where I was just like, dude, my hands are kind of tied here. Like I can't, obviously, like when you work with caddies, it's kind of like a weird marriage, it's like a weird partnership. Let's say that. So, you really have to trust them you're trusting them for a shot that could potentially cost you 5 figures worth of money. So, if that gets breached, it gets pretty hard. But yeah, so what had happened was that he got a DUI and then he had to spend the night in jail. And he was 2 hours late to my 2 p.m. tee time.
Oof.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was cool. And then the week after that was when my host mom, her son got arrested.
So you were on a roll. Week. You were on an absolute roll with police interaction.
I was telling my girl. So one of the girls that I like to travel with out on tour, I literally was like, I think it's me. Like, dude, I gotta get the fuck out of here. Well, and funny enough, so speaking of, caddies as well and Atlantic City, last year, 2019, I played in part of the pro-ams for the ShopRite. And what they do is that they give you a caddy. Usually it's, one of the caddies that they keep like at the golf course. And look, pro-ams are great. That week was a doozy. It was also my birthday weekend. So I'll let you guys infer how I was feeling in the morning of the pro-am.
In Atlantic City during a birthday week.
In Atlantic City.
They put you in the hotel, or they put you up at the casino there. It's great times. So my caddy is like this, he's like 19, he's like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and I'm like, hey dude, what's up? First hole. So I'm playing, you obviously are playing with, AMs. So they hit it everywhere, and then your caddies will go run up and pick the ball and then put it at the ball you're going to play in. So I'm not kidding you. First hole, We had all hit our drives. My caddy he's running to go pick up a ball. He's running back towards me, steps in a hole, breaks his fucking ankle. I'm literally just like, so he screams and I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I'm going to puke. I don't know what's happening. So I ended up having to get the ambulance, tour staff. Like I literally was like, so what we ended up doing was getting him in a cart, taking him to the medic that, like the LPGA will have a trainer on site and, all this stuff. And so I was like, we need to call an ambulance. I think he just broke his leg. And the kid was just like howling in pain. And I was just like,
wow. Liz, I'm starting to believe that statement. It might be you.
Guys, I swear, like there are just so many times that I'm just like, yeah, okay. I'm just glad that I can take it. Notice nothing happens to me, it's around me. So
well, there you go. You're still alive and thriving. So there you go. End of story. All is good. So you spent how many years total did you spend, playing full time?
Yeah. So full time, I was 15 to 18. And then when I transitioned out of golf, I was actually working for PXG, and it was great because they really wanted us to be playing. It was such a great opportunity for them to basically get branding and marketing, which they do a great job of anyway. So I played in 2019. I probably played in like 6 or 7 events. And then, obviously 2020 happened and I didn't play nearly as much. I didn't play in anything. And then this year, now that I'm, going to be at a club again, that really has a high emphasis on getting their professional staff to go play, I'm sure I'll probably play in, roughly 6 or 7 pending that we can, but who knows?
Absolutely. I love it. Yeah. I love it.
So 15 to 18 years.
There you go. Very cool. And you had talked about too, when we first started, about, your transition from college to the professional ranks and being sponsored by Nike and having the Callaway sponsorship. What did the fashion look like from what you were wearing in college to what you got to the pros? And then what does it look like today? How is that transition for you into what you think is acceptable to wear on the golf course?
Honestly, I keep telling, like, I've had so many of my friends be like, wow, golf looks like, I want to get involved in that, or, whatever. And I always tell people that it comes first with clothing, right? So, I mean, look, I'll be honest, my college outfits, some of them were really cool. Most of them were pretty standard. They were either black, white, or blue. That was it. They fit like any polo would. You had bottoms that were, you either got shorts or skort, pretty like cookie cutter, straightforward. It was nice stuff because it was Nike, and in my later years, like my junior and senior year, that's when outfits started to get a little better. They at least had like a pattern or like the Kentucky logo was cool. So this would have been 2015. They started getting really cool and I was pissed. And I was like, so I, luckily as well, thankfully, my coach will sometimes still send me some goodies. And I remember one year they actually ordered a soccer kit and it looked so cool. It started as like, the Kentucky blue on top and it kind of like tiered down to white at the bottom and it said Kentucky right across the chest. And I was like, that's dope. Like what? It was a short sleeve. It had a slight V. I mean, it was a soccer kit. So, it, you know what those look like. And I was like, why couldn't you wear that at a country club? Like the idea that women's golf clothes, one, could be offensive is hilarious. Like wearing a racer back shirt, that kind of cuts in so you can see a shoulder blade. Who is that hurt? Like what? Yeah. Like I can't play there. I remember once at Marion. So this was a US junior qualifier. So this was like, I was 16 or 17 and I was wearing a skirt, normal skirt. I'm a kid. And the head pro came up to me and he was like, hey, like, that's a little short. I'm going to let this slide. And I was like, dude, suck it. So again, with the Gruder girls, last week they had Danielle Kang on. And one of the things that she was talking about that I couldn't have put it better is that the way that people dress, especially in golf, can either instantly bring you in or turn you off, you know? Like, especially, I mean, obviously with men's stuff, you know, I feel like just in the last like year or two, they've started to spice it up. You can wear like joggers and the sweatshirt, holy shit, the hood, you know?
Oh man, you go with the hoodie.
The hood that broke the internet.
Oh man.
Yeah, like, again, like who the fuck, like one, y'all look cool as shit when you wear that. Two, it's like, who was that hurting? But okay. Like Tyrrell Hatton, when he won, what did he win that he had the hoodie on that was like
European Tour event, I think.
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
I know it was Tyrrell Hatton. And
was it Dubai? Did he win Dubai?
No, he did, but it wasn't that tournament.
Championship last year, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. It doesn't matter. Whenever he was wearing his goddamn sweatshirt, people thought that it was like this big, I was like, he looks great. Like what? Anyway.
I immediately went and tried to order the thing online. He looked so good.
That's what I'm saying. Like if I can have my golf clothes, if I could wake up and then just go play golf in that same outfit, that's an ideal world. But, you know, like for me, what I think is really cool is golf in the last 2 years has become drastically different in a lot of ways. Who is playing and what they look like when they go play. So what I was saying about Danielle is that, you know, she obviously is poster child for Adidas golf and she looks great week in and week out. And that was her big point. Like, why would somebody, one, you don't like the way that you're dressed, or like, you know, it's an ill-fitted boxy cut shirt, and all of a sudden you're supposed to go out and play well and like feel confident and comfortable, like that phrase, look good, play good, you know. 100%. It's like I think that it's so just like put it in 1950 that people can't wear something that they feel good in and then just go play golf in it, you know. So it's been really nice to see how even like when I left school in 2014 to now what the players are wearing, they look great, you know, and it's still like, so help me God, somebody wears a mock turtleneck instead of a polo. It's, you know, I think that it's nice to see that the restrictions on that are kind of opening up.
Yeah, I'm waiting for a day in which those old like classic signs of must have collared shirt to play are no longer, because we're starting to see it. Like you said, the difference between a mock turtleneck is still even questioned, which is beyond me. But those necessity for collared shirts, once those signs are completely in the past, I think is what we're all moving towards, because that's the end goal, right?
Well, and that's the gateway into what makes something cool or not, right? Like think about like basketball shoes or something like that. Like it just to be able to see yourself doing something, they have to look great, right? So like it's the same idea that when I was growing up, I never wanted to take lessons. Like why would you want to take lessons from like an old crusty dude? Like you're just like, you have nothing. I can't relate to that. Just like a lot of people can't relate to khakis and you know, a crusty button up. Like, you know, that just doesn't resonate with a lot of people anymore. And I think it's so cool to be able to come as you are when it comes to golf. You know, like you shouldn't, I mean, imagine how intimidating it would be to not know what to wear, not know who to talk to, not sure where to go. And then you're supposed to go play golf. And oh yeah, you have to pay $100 to go do it. You know, it's like, I think modern golf is really, I think it still has a long way to go, but it has had such a larger umbrella, which is awesome. Like I can't wait to see where golf is in 5 years, you know?
Yeah, well, that's half the problem anyway about getting people into the game, is the fact that they don't know what to wear to the golf course, and they get, you know, so kind of like anxiety over it that they're like, nah, I'm done. I'm not going to do this today. You know, forget it. And it's like you said, your outfit's your uniform. I mean, every sport and every team has like this uniform. It's the mentality of look good, feel good, play good. And then, but golf has to add, well, are you going to be accepted once you step onto your playing ground? Like your court, like the course is your court, right? You look at basketball, right? They all come out with like dope ass uniforms. Like they look good, they feel good. And it's like their intimidation factor. Like you're saying with like
That's true.
UK stuff. It's like you got the blue and that's written right across. Like you're kind of like a walking billboard in per se, but at the same time, you're repping like who you are and where you're from. And like that goes a long way and how you're about to go step onto, go in the battle and compete. Like but then golf has to add this. Well, let me check to make sure that you're okay before you can get into the club.
Right. And no, I remember like that story that I was telling you guys about when I was in this qualifier and I was a kid and I had an adult tell me that I didn't look appropriate. One, that's fucking mortifying. Like, even if you're just a regular dude that's going to play golf at a public golf course and somebody tells you that you can't you shouldn't wear cargos because they're atrocious. But like, let's just say you wear cargos to the golf course, which is, I would tell you to take those off for a different reason, not because they're not golf appropriate, but whatever. And imagine like you're just trying to just go play golf and somebody is telling you that you need to go buy Pan Golf Shop or that you next time, it's like, dude, I'm just here to try to enjoy the weather and maybe have a beer or two. Like, I think that that's what's so great about the way that golf brands, especially like you look at Nike Golf, even like Foray, and you look at like G4, they're really starting to like make cool shit for people to wear, and I just love the idea of being like challenged, especially when it's something that can be as insulting as clothing, like clothing is such an easy way, again, to either invite somebody or to turn somebody off. So, it's so cool to see brands embracing, like when Air Max came out with golf shoes, I was like, oh, I'm going to be the coolest motherfucker on the golf course. You can't tell me anything. I got my Air Maxes on. But that's what clothing does to people, And yeah, again, like I can't wait to see where golf ends up. Like I think Lululemon makes the coolest golf shit. It's not a golf brand.
No,
well, why not?
I think what you just touched on there is going to be so crucial to the next, like you said, 5 years. The brands that have no business or had no business in the last 2 decades doing golf stuff and saying, hey, this is golf related, wear it on the course and see how it does. That's where the game's truly going to expand, because Dante and I talk about this all the time too. It's not just the difficulty of the game. The game's already insanely difficult for 99% of the people out there, and then you tell them you can't wear things on the golf course. Like, all right, goodbye. There's no way to grow the game that way.
Oh no, it's true. And I think it's just so like today. So literally this happened this morning. So I bought a romper from Nike. Really cool. I was trying it on today and my boyfriend was like, oh, that's really cute. And I was like, yeah, I think I can wear this to a golf course. And I was like, yeah, I can. It seems so silly now in 2021 to think about how ridiculous golf rules can be,
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like back in in our childhoods, it was like people used to say, well, if I come to the golf course with you, what do I wear? I don't have anything that I can wear at the golf course. And it's like, that's so false. That's just so false in every possible pretense. I'm excited to seeing it transition into the t-shirts, the hoodies, the basketball shorts. If you want, like, let's just have fun,
I mean, just come as you are, and that's how people that don't look like us get into golf as well. Like that's how people want to start playing. Like, again, so, this year, obviously COVID, I was playing more fun golf than I was, competitive golf. Golf is never fun because I'm always pissed off. But, I was playing not competitively. So I was playing with my sister who never plays golf at all. Or, I was having a beer when I was playing or something like that. And so many of my friends were like, that looks fun as shit. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, it is fun. You can come and wear your like goofy ass bucket hat and, wear sneakers and you'll be fine. Like, obviously, the people that I was playing with knew how to be at a golf course, knew how to fake it until you get to hole 2, and then you can really go have fun.
Yeah.
But, you know, it can be, I mean, anything looks fun when people look cool and they're having a good time. I'll go fucking play badminton if people are having a good time. Well, badminton's fun. What's the stones and you push them on ice?
Oh man, curling.
What is that?
Curling, yes.
I'll fucking do curling if it looks fun. And
I'll be
people
honest,
look cool.
those guys look like they drink beer and have a good time, so I might be already up to give it a try. You don't have to convince me.
That's mean. I'll be terrible, but like they look good and they have fun. So that's what it is.
That's the mentality we need around golf, and I'm excited to see, like you said, where it goes. You know, being a woman in the industry too, what do you have to say for girls that are just getting into it and are maybe stuck with these couple brands that aren't quite transitioning to that kind of mentality and giving them options to wear on the golf course? You know, what do you kind of have to say to them as far as advice or just words of wisdom as far as, you know, where to go with fashion on the golf course?
Oh yeah, Dalt, that's a really good question. And I'll first say that I want especially young girls to understand that their avenue in golf is completely up to themselves. Everybody knows the helicopter parent. Everybody knows the pressures that especially young girls can feel from people that they don't relate to. Again, when I was taking lessons from an old guy, I'm just like, I'm better than you. Like, don't look at me. Don't help me. I don't need your help. But you know, I especially like for young girls, just don't let someone tell you that you aren't able to do it with however you're doing it right now. Mm-hmm. So no one needs to tell you what to wear. No one needs to tell you, you know, how to behave a certain way. Like I can't count how many times somebody has told me that I'm too loud or that I talk too much or whatever. Fuck that. You know, if I'm a little kid, I want to be welcome and embraced with exactly what I bring to the table, nothing else. And that's how it should be. And so, you know, for young girls that are getting into golf, 1, I would tell them, yeah, come as you are. You're perfect the way that you are. 2, look up to other women in golf. Don't necessarily just think that it's a male sport only. And I think that's what's really cool now about social media. It's such a double-edged sword, obviously, but young girls can see that other girls play golf. Yep. And that it's cool. Not just like, oh yeah, somebody else plays golf and they're, you know, like they look exactly like me. You know, it can really round out what your image of a golfer can be, you know? And I think that's super important for girls to remember. You know, like when I decided to go to Kentucky, that was the first time. My college team was the first time I was on a girls team. You know, I was always playing with boys. I was always on the boys high school team. And that's great, but it just doesn't add any flavor to what you're doing, you know? Like you just don't get other perspectives. Yeah, so if you are a girl,
if anything, I felt like it added to, or would feel like it added to the stigma of, oh, it's just a guy's game. Like where do I fit in? It just added more questions than answers.
For sure. So that's why I think it's important for girls to remember, 1, take no shit. 2, you can be exactly what you are. Like you don't have to look like, you don't even have to look like me, you know, like you could be a black kid playing golf. You could be a black girl playing golf and you will find your success. You just come as you are, you know? And I wish I had somebody to tell me that. I mean, my parents did a really good job of, you know, making me feel like important, especially within golf. And I think that's something that not every kid experiences, especially at a high level, you know? But yeah, I think it's really important for girls to remember you exactly how you are is what a golfer is.
I love that. And I think, you know, being that and bringing that to the table, you can find a lot of success, not only within playing, but within the industry too. And that's kind of what I wanted to finish up on. You know, you mentioned you've had different positions within the industry and are headed to assist or a head professional. I'm not quite sure. We'll get into that, but at a club here in New Jersey. So where are you headed now, and what can we look forward to from Liz here in the next few months and hopefully the next year?
So Yeah. Good. Another good question. So I am going to be a teaching and assistant professional at a club in Long Island. It's called the Sewanee Club. So it's right next to Rockaway Hunting Club. It's really close to Nassau Country Club. Long Island has so many great, I mean, that's where Bethpage is. That's where Sonic is. Like, it has great golf out there. So I'm super excited. I'm going to be focusing a lot on merchandising. So great conversation to have. I'm going to be focusing a lot on merchandising, a lot on membership support, and just like membership happiness. I'm going to be playing a lot with the members, just my arm. But yeah, and I'm going to be teaching a lot. So, you know, I'm going to be making the move either at the end of March, looking into April. But yeah, April is going to be when I start there. And I'm excited for the opportunity to be at such an old, beautiful golf club. But I also am really excited to teach people that golf is easier than they think it is. You know, like golf is, yeah, it's super hard. Arnold Palmer was right where he's like, it's deceptively simple and blah, blah, blah. But if you can I always tell people, if you can do 3 or 4 things pretty consistently, you'll be able to get around a golf course. If you can make good contact, you can understand a swing plane, you can understand club selection, and you can figure out how to read an actual like green complex, you'll be fine. Like, you can swing the club however you want. If you hit it well, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so I'm going to be doing that. And, you know, but yeah, like I've done everything from playing to fitting to, I worked when I was with PXG, I was basically an account manager. So I was overseeing, you know, a lot of accounts across Ohio and Michigan. So, but that's, again, the beauty of golf. You know, like, you don't have to enjoy the game and play, or enjoy the game and just watch it on TV. Like, you don't even have to be a high level player to be able to go fit somebody, like, or even to teach. I mean, I've seen a lot of teachers that can't hit a golf ball.
Yes, that's so true.
You know, that's the old adage. But, yeah, so that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm really excited about it. And who knows, Dante, maybe we'll go play golf.
It's about an hour to North Jersey, so I'm in.
Well, there you go. It sounds like we still have yet to play Bethpage Black. It seems like we just got to book a tee time, and you're going to have to come up and join us.
That's fine. So, fun fact, I don't know if y'all knew this, but if you are a resident of New York, you get like, literally, I think it's $60 to play on the weekends at Bethpage.
All right.
And
so
then like
in.
out of it's like $150. Yeah, so I'll see you guys later. I'm going to go pay Bethpage.
Fantastic. I love it. Well, where can folks follow along, you know, as you make the move up to Long Island, and where can they follow along on social media to kind of follow your journey, and maybe even girls who want to get into the game can shoot you a message and ask you questions?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm really only active on Instagram. So it's Safari Liz, and it's Safari with 2 Y's and Liz with 2 Y's. But you know, if you just look up Liz Breed, you'll be able to find it as well. But yeah, that's it. I love talking about golf, and I love talking especially about how golf is for you and them and they and everyone in between. So, you know, if anybody does have any questions, or it doesn't even have to be questions about me, you know, just questions about how they can get in golf. I love giving people tips. I just love talking about golf and helping people enjoy it, you know, as much as I do. So yeah, Instagram.
Awesome. I love it. Well, we enjoyed this talk. I know we've been looking forward to it for a little while now, so it was awesome to have you on. Thank you so much for the time. I'm sure our listeners are going to love it, and you'll probably get a few DMs as far as, hey, Liz, how do I do this in the golf game?
You know what? Honestly, that's great. It's better than those weird ones that I get that are like, are you a sugar baby? Or like, you know, the weird ones like that. I'd rather talk about golf than, you know, have to turn away some weird bot that's trying to scam me for money. So that sounds great.
I love
that.
it.
And
no
one
Forex
other
trading.
One other tip for you: if you're moving and you will be living in North Jersey, if you're getting a breakfast sandwich, it's pork roll, egg and cheese, not Taylor ham, egg and cheese. They're wrong, and I'll fight them on it any day of the week.
Hot take from Dante. Okay, well.
They'll get mad at you, but no, they're wrong. It's pork roll, egg and cheese.
I'm gonna be like, hey, can I get a pork roll, egg and cheese? And just like,
Yep. So that's my tip for the day.
That sounds great. You'll be the first person I tell when I have a pork roll.
There you go.
I love it. I love it. Well, guys, that's Liz Breed. I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. As always, you can go to www.enjoythewalkpod.com to check out all the latest information as well as the latest merch. So thanks for listening, guys. As always, get out there, carry your clubs, enjoy the walk.
Thanks, boys.